Welcome to the SWBL podcast. I am your host, Bryan Benware, and tonight I am joined by a very special guest, our one and only loved Commissioner Sam Skibbe. And this is actually going to be the first podcast of our season 21 league year. So we're kicking it off with the man, the myth, the legend, the all-powerful Sam. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. It's nice to hear season 21 is getting kicked off. We had the announcement of unrestricted free agency began last week on November 1st. And that was your idea actually to move that up. And we kind of agreed to just adopt it, make it a couple months earlier than it used to be. So everybody had a chance to sign everybody. And we've already had 2 signings from teams. So unrestricted free agency kind of kicked off the excitement of season 21.
Yeah. And I know everybody, obviously we're leading up to the holidays and Memorial Day weekend is still a ways off, but I think it'll make the off season even more fun, just pushing that up 2 months, more stuff to talk about on the podcasts, more rumors, more time for rumors to spread that never come to fruition, but all of those things, it'll be fun. Stuff to talk about around a Christmas tree and early on. But tonight, guys, we are going to be doing the SWBL version of 21 questions that we're calling Ask the Commish. And so I reached out to all the captains and had them send a message out to their players. And I was fielding questions from you, the players of the league, for Sam, and got a pretty good response. Would have loved a few more questions. So maybe next year we'll get some more creative minds involved in this. But what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to run down 21 questions with Sam. And some of them are layups and some of them are tougher. And he has not seen these questions. So
hopefully Edlo hasn't submitted any, because I know his would be a little biased towards the players and against me. So
yeah, well, he couldn't even, I have his number in my phone. So if he did send them, I knew it was him. But if he had even, I wouldn't put it past him to go get a burner phone and text me. I think I'd still know it was his questions. So
that's true.
So yeah, he hasn't seen them, guys. So we're going to just jump into it, see the responses he gets, and just have some fun tonight. Okay.
Let's have fun.
All right. So season 20 last year was big. Big anniversary year. Spent a lot of time reminiscing about the past. But what are you planning going into the 3rd decade of the SWBL?
Honestly, it's tough to even fathom, obviously, that we've been doing this for 2 decades. And the ultimate goal is to keep it going for another decade, right? And into the future, to see our kids grow up and possibly take over for us in the future too. So I think the goal obviously is to stay the course, maintain what we have, keep guys wanting to come back. So keep adding little things that are still brand new to them, whether that's a field change, something on the field that we can change and add a more dynamics, something going on. It's an experience that we can give our fans or give our players. But yeah, it's ever evolving. But you still want to maintain that sense of camaraderie and friendship that people come back for year after year. So I think the answer would be, it's boring, but stay the course for the next 10 years and get us to the next decade after that.
All right. Sorry. Which past team of the SWBL was the most disappointing?
Past team?
Yeah. So, all 20 seasons. You can include last year, but which one was the most disappointing? Not necessarily the worst team.
Ooh, yeah. It kind of can break down by eras, obviously. In season 1, Brett's going to hate me for saying this, but like the Brett Spencer, Jeff Bertram, like you look back at their careers and you're like, how in the heck did they not win season 1 is mind boggling. There's a couple chances in the first couple eras that people had a chance at 10-0 seasons, undefeated seasons. My brother and I were on a team early on, and the only game we lost was a game that he couldn't make it and a bench player came for us. So like there's a disappointment there. I'm saying teams that I'm on because they're most I feel like I've had a disappointing career in the sense of like championships. So I guess you could call me the most disappointing player on some franchises. But like the Royals were a very disappointing franchise in the franchise era, despite their dominance in the regular season, despite having some of the best teams on paper. Like the team with Spencer Bogat, Ty Butler, Gus, and Ed Lowe, like that team should have won a championship, never did. Myself, Ty, Gus, and Flackney. I mean, that team should have gone the distance, but ran into a buzzsaw in the championship. You and I were on the Cardinals together. That was another bust of a team. And I keep saying my teams here, but yeah, I think those are kind of the ones that come to recent memory. But yeah, there's been some surprising teams along the way that have fought through some adversity when they were younger. But you look back at like a team like Blake Spencer Bogat, and Paul Castellano won a championship, and they're the only league team in league history that had a losing record that ended up winning the championship because everybody made the playoffs that year. So that might have been a mistake on our part because they got in and got hot, and all those players now are Hall of Famers. But you know, there's those little surprises that were in the history books too that are pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you intend on playing multiple years with the Orioles when you signed with them?
It was up in the air. It was a thing with John and all when he said to everybody, like, if you guys want to keep going, like, I'm here for it. But if you guys want to go for a season, want to do something else, like, he knows Brett and I, you know, are occasional nomads. Brett a little more in that sense. He's kind of bounced around from team to team. He even said in the interview when the Expos played in Game 1, that pre-game interview, he said he likes to bounce around with teams. I think John wanted to just put together a team that could help his brother win his first championship too. And we got so close, right? So I think it was that sense of, you know, I think this is a good squad to come back with. I know Pete just re-signed with the Orioles. We haven't officially decided, but obviously the talks and the rumors are probably going to be the Orioles are going to return. The Orioles will be a franchise again. We'll have the same 9 franchises coming back for season 21 to start that new decade. So, you know, the Orioles are going to fill some spots, and right now it's just John and Peter, but you got to believe, you know, Brett and I had a great time with them. The jerseys were slick. We got really close. You know, we were 1 run away so many different times. And so it's going to probably be a run it back situation for the Orioles this year. And who knows what's next year? So I guess 2 years is multiple, but who knows if it's going to be a third.
Yeah. Well, I know that, you know, there are captains out there looking at the free agent list for everybody whose contracts expired after last season. And they're starting to dream, and they see the Orioles players sitting there just wondering what's going to happen. So I can't remember.
A lot of good free agents.
Yeah.
A lot of good free agents.
But yeah. It'll be interesting. We had last off season was one of the crazier ones we've ever had. But at the same time, you know, does that continue, or does it kind of slow back down and kind of come back to the norm of a lot of people kind of staying pat? So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
But with the growing number of players that we've had and experienced over the last couple of years, are you anticipating another expansion anytime soon?
Man, that is always the talk, because there's so many people, and there's still people that I want to see in this league. And I know MOWIF, our sister league, you know, in Chesterfield, the fast pitch league that we work hand in hand with for a lot of things. You know, there's so many guys that I meet through that, and other of our SWBL guys get to know. And, you know, some of those guys you see like, oh my gosh, these guys would fit in during SW weekend so well. And then we meet guys, you know, from all over St. Louis, or other people have friends that hear about this and want to get involved. And, or people come play summer league. Like Ryan Brown drove from Arkansas to come play summer league with us, and he didn't get a spot last year, and he's been raking in MOWIF, and he should probably get a spot in the SWBL too. So, I mean, we meet these people along the way. People get added every year. And I keep saying this on podcasts. We always are like, who are the rookies going to be this year? How are we going to have a rookie of the year? And this year we had it again. We had 4 rookies only, but they all were in the mix for rookie of the year. So it's kind of interesting to see that league evolve. As an expansion, we are kind of at our limit with one field, with 9 teams. Like we really are, unless we got crazy lights and we started earlier and later. And, daylight savings time is going away next year, Brian, and so we are doing, I think it's spring forward, then fall back, and then we're staying back, which my brother and I were talking about this weekend. And that means that it'll be darker quicker for even Memorial Day. So like we're either gonna have to start earlier, and like that expansion talk kind of dwindles down too. A quick, plug or possible secret, not gonna reveal too much, but there's always talks of a second field. And there might be a little closer than we think. Maybe not at the Skibbe compound. I know that throws people for a loop too, but in a close area. There's always a talk of a possibility, which could add the possibility for expansion, but we kind of want to see how 9 teams will roll for a while. And honestly, the schedule works perfect because if you have 3 divisions, you can play everybody in your division twice and everybody else in the league once. If we went to 10 teams, you'd be playing everybody once and then one random team another time. And it would probably just throw out divisions at that point. So it kind of works perfectly right now how it's set up. And I hate to veer from that when it's working so well.
Yeah. We were talking about disappointment and you named all your teams. Why do you think you haven't won a championship in 12 years?
Man, and you get to this last championship game and Gus and I are in the championship together. Skibbe's got to win this year. We're starting on the mound together. Skibbe's got to win. And we had the Yankees on the ropes so many times. And I'm like, yep, Gus is the one that's cursed. And then it happened. And it's got to be me. I couldn't get it done with some great teams. We are getting older, Brian. You and I are in the older generation of this league. And my window of opportunity may be closing. And, I surround myself with other older vets as well. So maybe the window of opportunity is closing. But I think it's that mentality of pushing through in the playoffs. And if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Everybody knows that. But I think it's about the decisions that were made along the way. It seems for some reason, I don't know why, people pitch me in the playoffs when every year we keep saying I shouldn't. If Gus would have pitched in the playoffs for the Royals, many of those years, we probably would have won one. If Brett would have pitched last year in the playoff, in the championship game especially, we probably would have won. So I think it comes down to the decision making. And me and Brett were kind of put in charge of pitching, deciding who was going to go. And we both said my stuff was a little bit better at the end of the season, so I'm going to go. And it didn't work out for us. So maybe it's about humbling myself over and over again until we finally realize I should take a step back and not try to lead a team somewhere. So I need to be a number 2. I can't be a number 1 on a team. Let's put it that way.
There's only so many shots that old dome can take before you finally get it.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't be a number 1. And I feel like even on the Orioles last year, I was seen as the number 1, even though Brett was our clear number 1. And I think it got put on my shoulders in the championship game, and it should have got put on Brett's for sure.
Okay. Something to keep in mind if you ever decide to, join another team, which will, so, does one person do too much in the front office?
I mean, everybody would probably say I do too much. I do too much myself. I can self-admit, my wife can tell me I do too much. My entire front office group, especially my brother, says I do too much. But it's a passion of mine, and it's something that I don't see ever going away. I will do this as long as all of you guys, my best friends, will come out and hang out with us once a year for 4 days. I will continue to put in the work, because if for me, it's not about the wiffle ball, it's not about the stats. And clearly for the past 12 years, it's not about the championships. It's about, it's about all of us coming together and having a great time for those 4 days and get to see each other and reminisce and get to see how our families are doing and growing. So I will continue to put in that work, even though those 4 days bear me to the bone. And, it seems like once we get started with free agency and gets rolling, it really picks up for me. Now, I've had great help along the way. You've taken some stuff off my shoulders. Kevin Pulley, the past many years, has taken so much off my shoulders in regards to getting our league name out there. Gus will do anything I ask. Scott, Spencer, they'll do anything I ask. Brett has been great for our merchandise and taking on a part of that we haven't had in a long time. So everybody has roles on this front office, and I'm appreciative of all of them. But yes, everybody would probably say that I am the guy that does everything. And if I would just flat out quit, the league probably would go away. So
Yeah, we'd be screwed. Even however, how many of us are there? 9 others?
yeah, I think there's 8 total.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, eight. So
Eight
the
total.
7 of us would just implode, and
I'm sure they would happen, it's just, there's so much that I feel like I just like get set up for everybody to take over too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, one thing I'll mention, and I don't know if this happens to you, but it started happening to me, which is really cool. I'll be out, I'll be wearing one of my, my hats,
Yep.
made, by Brett and his company. And I'll get compliments on the hat all the time. Oh, that's a cool hat.
Yeah.
Where'd you
All
get
the
it?
time.
All the time. And I'll tell them, well, it's a wiffle ball league I play in. And they're like, oh, it's like the S something wiffle ball. And I'm like, yeah, it's the Skibbe Wiffle Ball League. And they're like, my son watches your YouTube videos.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've gotten on the website. They watch all this stuff. And like, I've heard of that. That's so cool. And like, these are people who have no relation. Like, they're not an aunt and uncle. They're just people. And so that name is getting out there, and that's something to be proud of from all the work that you've put in.
Our social media, finally, like, we've been trying to get that up. Kevin Pulley did a great job building that from nothing to everything that it is now. And our website has continued to get better. I think we do a really good job at just displaying history of 20 years. And you're right, this hat gets so many compliments. Even people are like, man, like Mizzou fans are like, I want that hat because like it's the Missouri logo. And then people don't see the slit. And I'm like, yeah, it's a wiffle ball bat. And they're like, oh, now I see it. Like,
yeah.
So I think and when Kevin designed this logo, like, it's as pretentious as this sounds, he said, I want to find a logo that's the next Apple. Like, because the Apple's so simple, right?
Yeah.
Nike, swoosh, it's simple. Like, you don't need some crazy logo. And so many wiffle ball leagues have these logos that are just like too much going on, right?
Yeah.
And our shield logo is kind of like that. Like, it's a typical wiffle ball logo that has a lot going on, but this is the symbol that people recognize for our league. So he did such a good job with it, and it's our brand for sure.
Yeah. Well, you kind of talked about, some of the things that people have done, but what's one other thing that the front office could take off your plate?
Man, so there's 2 things I think take up, maybe 3 now, but like 2 things that really during the weekend are tough for me, and that's taking stats and the videos, like, getting the live feed started. And I know I've talked with the front office, and we've talked with different ways that we can kind of streamline this process. And if I can release myself of every game of stats, I think it would free up a lot for me. I feel like our Twitter and even our Instagram too, the past couple of years, when Kevin was on it by himself, he wasn't present with the Yankees. And I think this year he's going to take another step back, and that's good. I think our players deserve to have fun with it and things like that too. But I think it would be like, I've always wanted on Twitter to post, like, if somebody hits a home run in a game, like post a graphic with one of those cool pictures that we took last year from Media Day. And I had so many intentions of doing that this past year, but season 20 was so busy. So I think figuring out a better way to streamline our live feed, better way to streamline our videos, so that we have all that content. Because I do think it's important to videotape every game, at least in the slightest, to have that history, and get me off of stats completely. Even though there's a problem, it's me running up there to go figure out how to do it, or figure out what needs to be fixed. It's just about training more people too. The last thing I was going to say was the social media graphics. I really like making those, I really do. But if a lot of that stuff was freed up, then I could help Kevin out more, or I could do more of the bulk of it as I'm starting to learn more about graphic making, and to give Kevin more time off too. So I think those would be some things that front office or not front office members, just people that want to help out. Like we would love for any help and all help that people could give us. So
Yeah. Well, and along those lines, what is one thing that the captains could help the front office with more?
So, I think this was your idea and you helped out with this last year too, but like doing more videos, like getting more content for us. Like I know people like they're socializing. They don't necessarily like have their phone out. Like people are having a few drinks and cocktails and they're getting to reminisce with friends and talk about things outside of wiffle ball while a wiffle ball game is going on in the background. Like that's the beauty of our weekend. But if there were people that were taking more videos, I know this year we're going to try to force captains and teams to do all of the post-game interviews for us so that it takes off the front office's plate. So have captains and the people pick a person that did really well in your game and do the post-game interview for us. So that takes a little bit off of the front office. But just content in general, like I would love for the captains to have their Twitters more active throughout the year, especially during those 4 days. Like you should be the ones tweeting out your game scores and the stats and players that did well. Hell, sign a player to your roster that might never play, maybe just gets in on garbage situations and have them be your media tech guy and have them do it, right? It gets somebody else involved and they possibly get 1 or 2 at bats. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just that I feel like our rosters can be maximum amount of people could have. So if you have somebody that isn't playing as much or somebody that's not playing in that game, have them take over your Twitter. I think captains can do a little bit more on the social media side to push our name out there, especially during the 4 days.
Yeah. I try. I do my best.
I know. And you did a great job last year. That's why I brought you up, because that was your idea about bringing up having the captains do the post-game interviews. And I was like, yeah, it makes so much more sense than having me or a front office member like designated for that spot. Like your game's over. You have 45 minutes to 2 hours of time that you're going to have a break. So yeah, you should do it. Yep.
All right. Well, speaking of captains, name one move that each captain should make before next year.
Oh, snap.
This can be as simple as run it back. Let's sign your team the same roster and cycle it again to, I mean, if you want to go as far as burn it all down and
no,
but or if there's like a specific player that you think a team should target, you can say that too.
Okay.
One thing that each captain should do for their team.
Interesting. Oh man.
So, and I can help you go through each team.
I'll start. Also, I'll go from like power rankings from last year, from start top to bottom, because I feel like the top ones are going to be a little bit easier. I mean, I would say Yankees don't have to make a change because they have those 4 guys. My only like recommendation, I think for them, like I think they should sign a 5th guy as a fun guy. Like somebody like, I hate to say like a Michael Durstein or a Chris Oberlor, or like somebody that can like hype you up. You know what I mean? Like somebody that can just be like in your huddle with you. Like all of them are such great friends, the 4 of them, but like add one of your 5th buddies that can be even like a rookie possibility. And in a garbage situation, let them come in or hit 5 or something like, or let them in the field. I know they're also working as a competitive group. Like they want to get their time, but have that guy that's just going to be that guy to be in your huddle, like just to add a little more flair and fun to that group as well. Orioles, I think the move has got to be, develop ourselves and our chemistry a little bit, what we're going to be. I think adding maybe another guy, having 6 on that roster, whether it's for injury backup, whether it's for competitive backup, shore up some of the things that were lacking in the 3 losses, I guess they had last season, 2 in the regular season and in the championship. So it's hard to say for my team because I feel like we haven't talked about it too much since. With the Twins, they don't need to do anything, I feel like. I know like Edlow had a pretty not so great season, if I remember last year. So I think the move would be maybe give Will some more at bats. I think having two lefties in a lineup is pretty dangerous. And I think giving Will, I don't think he had any at bats last year for the Twins, and Chris Oberlor did, and Will did not have any. And I don't know if that was Will's like, you know what, we're going for a championship. We're going to run it back and get that title again. So I'm going to take a step back and just worry about pitching. But it almost didn't help his pitching because Spencer was their ace last year. So I think getting Will in the game mindset more, getting him more at bats, because he is a force to be reckoned with sometimes and can change a game on the offensive side. Marlins did it last year, man. They signed Jordan Smith to the Athletics' demise. I mean, Jordan Smith was a beast. I feel like they have to highlight him some more. They're pitching
first.
That's true. I mean, he might be a hot commodity actually with some people. Like there could be people claiming. I'm surprised they haven't signed him in the offseason too. I don't think Jordan will leave them because obviously he's good friends with those guys and they definitely give him a chance, and he loves that vibe that franchise of the year created. So I don't think Jordan leaves them, but Jordan has a lot of connections outside of the Marlins that I feel like people are starting to see. This dude's an all-star and he could be a future all-star every year after year. So that would be the Marlins, is probably what you said. Re-sign Jordan Smith as quickly as possible before somebody else snatches him up. White Sox, they need a guy. They need a pitcher. The Ty and Derek experiment didn't go as well, I think, as they thought. They did okay, and they won a couple games. You know, I think the two of them, maybe each one won. Maybe Ty won one, Derek won none. I think Jackson won most of their games. And I think being the 5 seed is what they did not want. Like they wanted to be a division winner. They wanted to get to the championship their first year. So I think they need to sign a pitcher of some kind. You know, I looked at the free agent list as we were talking about this, and like your team, the Astros, like David Olderman's on this list for free agents. Like, I hate to say it, but like the White Sox, that might be a good move from them. There's some good names on this list that I feel like they could find a pitcher that can help them out, especially a lot of people like Jeremy Worrell is another name that they could have to add some pitching depth. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of rookies that I know will come. Will they sign a rookie, or do they know somebody that they can add? Or maybe the move is maybe you sign Kyle Cornell. I know Derek wants to forge his own path, but if you bring Kyle back out of retirement, maybe that adds some pitching and, you know, a backup bat for some of you as well. So that'd be my White Sox one. Where does that leave me? The Astros, you guys. Let me think here. I think, despite you having David and Cam, I think you could add some pitching depth still. Outside of Keaton, I think you still could have somebody that, or try to find something. Jeremy Worrell, I keep going back to him, but like he's having a great time in the Expos too. Yeah. And I don't know if
we got Jimmy some innings last year, and he did pretty good.
Jimmy got some. You're right. Jimmy did well. Maybe he's been looking well in Mowif too, and I think he was definitely your offensive spark too, which is a huge signing because he almost did just as well as John Callaway did the year prior. I hate to like pinpoint this again, but Cam's got to take that next step in medium pitch. Every year we think the breakout's going to happen, and it didn't happen again. And I know he's frustrated with it too, because he's like, what the heck, this is medium pitch. Like, how is it not working? But I think if once everybody kind of takes that next step for the Astros, you're going to be back in the playoffs. But maybe it is about signing another solid cornerstone bat that you can add to your squad. I don't know who that is or what that is, but you know, it could be somebody that's on the free agent list, could be another rookie that could be added just to add an impact bat just in case. Like, what if you sign the next great rookie like Corey McCarthy? You know, I think some teams might overlook rookies and then be like, oh shoot, probably should have gotten them. That'd be mine for you guys. A's would be to sign Jordan Smith back. That was more of a joke. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. I saw Matt Gallicados at the Tata Wiffle Ball League. Maybe get Matt Gallicados to come back. Evan did a great job for them, I thought, on the mound. But I think they need a better number 2. Paul did great a couple years ago, and then last year faltered down. So Yeah, I think they need to get back to shocking the world and getting franchise of the year again, and then the fun will follow and the wins will come too. Rockies, that's the most intriguing team. That last year's Rockies were tough to watch, weren't they? I mean, it was nothing against them. It was just, and I know Blake felt the same way. He's like, this is not wiffle ball he's ever been used to. And I think they need a couple more things. I think they need Grant Boyd to come back to add that flair for that team to come back. It'd be great if Breida could come back too, just to get that magic back that they had, the belly button magic. But I hate to say like sign another rookie, but Adam North was rookie of the year. I think you definitely bring him back. Jason was very close to beating Adam. I think you bring them back. But I think with Grant, those two, Bryan had one of the worst years of his career last year. So I think if you sign those four and maybe one, you have Blake and then whoever's doing the best out of those five for the three, and you keep Chad as just a pitcher, but you need another pitcher too. Rockies have a lot of a wish list for Christmas coming up. And I think it's Chad, and then they got to sign another rookie or another guy that can pitch and hit for them too, because they need some stuff to come back, because this league's getting better. And I felt like they didn't get better the past couple of years. They stayed the same or got worse. So everybody was wondering when the year was that they weren't going to make playoffs, and this was the year for sure. Expos, they just need another bat, maybe two. Jimmy hit most of his home runs against you guys in game one, and then didn't hit any more the rest of the season, it seemed like. Germer and Eggs went backwards a little bit from the year prior. Jeremy did okay in his first year. He was kind of the leader in a lot of their categories, but I know he can do better as well. So Expos need another bat. They missed Brett bad past couple of years. And obviously Brett had a better season than he's had since 2015 this year with the Orioles, and the Expos all weekend were like, where was this last year? Like they were like so mad at him, but they need an impact bat for sure. So we'll see where that comes. So that's kind of my rundown. Sorry it was long, but it's 9
I knew it would be. What age will you retire from playing wiffle ball? You have to pick a number.
I mean, my non-number idea would be, I don't think I'll ever retire. Is this playing, like commissioner playing?
I guess, no, playing.
Okay.
Playing wiffle ball. Yep. I just didn't say it. What age will you retire from playing wiffle ball?
Playing wiffle ball. In the SWBL, in fast pitch scene, what are we talking here? I know I keep finding
if you stop playing fast pitch and you're still playing the SWBL, you're retired. So full on, you're not playing wiffle ball anymore.
Man, it's tough. I just feel like there's always going to be like an old guy team. You know what I mean? Like when our kids take over, I feel like there's going to be a team, like in every year, it's going to be like 10 of us old guys, and we all just take turns, or 12 of us, and everybody takes, 3 games, everybody gets 3 games and we just rotate them out as we go along. And it'd be just with one veteran old guy team, and all of our sons and daughters can take over teams for us as they get older.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would like to say that I could play till I'm 50 on that veteran team. I think I'll always run the league if my sons want to take it over, and they want to keep it going. If my daughter wants to play, if all of our kids want to keep playing, I'll definitely keep running it and adding that hobby and teaching my sons how to kind of take over that as well, the back end things. But as a playing perspective, like I think I could play competitively in this league on a franchise till I'm 45, maybe. And then our kids are going to be old enough and they're going to be crushing us. And it's like, okay, let's have one vet team play till we're 50, 55. We get to 60, might be too old. So I'll say 59. That's my number, right. 59.
Can you reserve the Padres team name for that?
Oh my gosh.
For that team?
You're right. We should retire the Padres team name just for that.
No,
that's a great idea.
Cannot be the Padres.
That's such a good idea.
Do you prefer medium pitch or fast pitch, and why?
This is an interesting question right now, because if you ask me right now, in my mindset, I prefer fast pitch right now. I think if you would have asked me a couple years ago when the fast pitch scene was seemingly just the NWA tournament, like that's all we did fast pitch, I would have said medium pitch because I had a lot more fun with that. But I think there's so many new styles and there's so many more ways to play this game that I've been introduced to the past couple of years, whether it's MoWiff, United Wiffle, watching other fast pitch leagues, kind of in diving into a different style of wiffle ball that I have not played since these past couple of years. I would say right now, my preferred style that I like to play is fast pitch, but medium pitch, our weekend is still the best weekend in wiffle ball by far. Like as much as I love United Wiffle and I love the NWA tournament and I love competing every Thursday at MoWiff, if you haven't experienced an SWBL weekend, then you have not experienced all of wiffle ball because it is completely different than everything else. And I would give up everything else to just play in the SWBL weekend if I had to pick just one. So my preferred style is fast, but obviously I will never pick SWBL or anything over SWBL.
It's good because your name's kind of in the league. So, pick a weekend besides Memorial Day and Labor Day for playing the season and why.
Oh, geez. 4th of July. Fireworks. It'd be fun to do like a fireworks show on like Friday opening day, like get all your families to come out, and we could do a fireworks show. Maybe not at the field with all the trees surrounding, but like everybody go out and do something on the opening day social night. A couple years ago during COVID, it was possibly going to be on July 4th, and we were planning for that. Like we were planning on having a fireworks show and things going on. I think it would, it brings that America quality as well. American made wiffle ball, like July 4th wiffle ball, fireworks, hot dogs, beer, all kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, I'd probably say July 4th weekend. And it's like also a cop out because obviously we would still get an extra day somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like, what 3-day weekend would you ever be able to find? But yeah,
Well,
I think it'd be July.
Because if the 4th of July is on a Wednesday, because that rotates.
That's true.
Pick like the weekend closest to it, basically.
True. Yeah. And I guess if it would be, the short answer would be anything that you can fit 4 days of wiffle ball in without people taking off the most work, right? Like obviously you want to still fit in the 4 days that we have, and you don't want to burden people in their schedules as much because you want them to keep returning. But July 4th is also like a big lake weekend for a lot of people too, just like Memorial Day and Labor Day are. So like it's kind of picking your battles. Maybe July 4th is a worst weekend, but
guess it's Thanksgiving then, huh?
You got to do it in November, or like it's like
everybody's got beer and turkey legs.
You never know. It could be 70 degrees on Thanksgiving this year, so it could work out.
That's true. What is one thing you have left to accomplish in your wiffle ball career?
Oh man. I could cop out again. Like in my wiffle ball career, like I'm probably not gonna win a national championship. I could possibly win. We got really close last year at NWA tournament, getting second place, but we had still a gauntlet to go through to get there. Facing off against Reed Warner and Will Smithy from CCW back to back would have been a tough task. I do think that the SWBL Cardinals can bring home a national championship, but I don't think that's my goal at the end of all of it. I think my goal, as a cop-out answer as this is my ultimate goal in wiffle ball is to have the SWBL make its mark on the sport. Yeah, I do want the SWBL to be remembered in the wiffle ball world. There's so many people that we've met along the way that I feel like they know of us. They know of the SWBL. They know of us through myself or through Cam or through Gus or Spencer Bogad, Chris Metter, like some of these household names in the national scene. But outside of that too, like I just want people, when they think of the sport of wiffle ball, like yes, you're always going to think of Major League Wiffle. You're going to think of the United Wiffle Ball Tournament, the NWA tournament. You're going to think of these big name things. But I want the SWBL to be the longest running, the longest tenured league in the world. I want us to keep going past season 50 into 60, 70. Let our kids keep this generation or this generational tradition continued on through us. And we all started it, but we want to be those old guys in the rocking chairs that are cheering on our kids, and we want our kids to be able to do the same thing. So I just want to keep it going and keep the legacy alive.
Yeah, that would be it's definitely something to look forward to for all of us old guys. It's, you start thinking about legacy a lot. And, well, some people do, I guess I should say. Some people don't care, but all right. Who is the all-time best player in SWBL history?
Wow. Wow. Oh man, the eras are so different. And it's tough because if you went off accolades, obviously Brett has more MVPs than anybody, but he won those in a time when we had some really bad players in the league. It was basically me, him, and Bertram every single year for everything. But he's still good, and he's still doing it at a high level and winning championships on teams that hadn't won championships before. I think he's definitely in the conversation. But I think my answer would be Gus. I think after this past year, winning another championship in this era, I think supplanted Brett, or got rid of Brett from the conversation and moved him above Brett. So I think those two are kind of 1A, 1B for me. There's definitely other people that are in the mix. Spencer Bogad as of late, but I think early on in his career, he wasn't instantly dominant like Gus and Brett kind of were. I think he's definitely one of the best players in the league right now, and definitely could prove it in the future. Chris Meadows is another name, obviously, you throw out there. He was the all-decade player of the year for the past 10 years. He's been the best player, winning the most championships. You can't really go against his pedigree. Him and Brett have the most championships. So, but I think overall as a player, it's got to be Gus.
All right. Who is one player you never want to play on the same team with?
Oh, that's kind of a sad question. Hard hitting, I guess, but I guess I would play with anybody.
These are the types of people that you have in your league, by the way. That'll ask these questions.
Who would I never want to play with? Maybe I'll do it from I don't know. I was going to do it from a strategic sense, and I was going to say a pitcher only, like a PO. Yeah. But if it was me and that other guy that were pitching, because I still like to develop my own pitching as I go. I can't pick a person. That wouldn't be fair. I can't pick a person. I don't know.
You have to have an answer.
Okay. My answer is John Light.
Okay.
Because if he played last year and we lost to the Marlins.
All right. All right. And then who is one player you want to play on the same team with that you've never played with?
This is an interesting question. I like this question. Who is somebody I've never played with that I want to play with? And my answer is Chris Metter.
I can't believe you guys have never played together.
Yeah, I want to play with Chris. I loved playing with him on our SWBL Cardinals team. And he's just obviously his championship pedigree, is one of the reasons. And having the most decorated left fielder on your team while I'm pitching is just like a safety net for those twins. And I picked Chris Metter.
Okay. What is one thing you've seen in another league that you'd like to implement into the SWBL?
Interesting. What is one thing in another league?
It can be a rule. It can be.
Yeah. I'm not
something about the field.
That's a
Something
good one
about
too.
the off the field festivities.
I mean, from a field perspective, I would love to build a permanent fence and decks like CCW has, Circle City and Indianapolis. Like they're the best field in the country for a reason. Um, there's places other like they have one CCW. Big League Wiffle Ball is another one in Arizona, I believe. They have like a announcer's booth that's built up. I would love to have one of those from a field perspective. Gameplay perspective, there's not a lot that I would kind of change about our league. All leagues kind of have a flat surface. I'd love to have a flatter surface than a hill, but that's just been kind of like our tradition, claim to fame. From a content perspective, I would love to implement more things like MLW has. Their game breakdown of their games and how they put their games out to the world is something that I would love to strive to do, but obviously you can't do it with 50 games of wiffle ball in 4 days. If we played in a weekly league, I think I would definitely do that more. So how they run their content would be my number one thing too.
Okay. Keep 2, give up 2.
Okay.
First pitch strike.
Okay.
Radar gun. Pitcher's poison. Allowing more than 8 balls for a walk.
Allow more than 8 balls for a walk?
So keep 2 and give 2. Give up 2.
Okay. I keep radar gun and pitcher's poison.
Okay. I'm not even going to ask you why. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
What should we do about close call controversies? I think this is maybe one of the more intriguing things people think about every year is we've always got at least one.
Yeah.
And controversy is a strong word, but there's always a close call argument, discussion of some sort, usually multiple a season, and it's worked most of the time. It's worked itself out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But trying to maybe eliminate those or have a way to say this is how we limit the possibility of that, because I mean even baseball has stuff like that. You can challenge things.
Yeah, I mean I don't mind the idea of challenging. It's almost like you would give a certain amount of challenges for the whole season or something like that.
One red flag.
Yeah, or yeah, even if it was and you could get it back or something, you know what I mean, if it was right. But like I also don't mind the option of umpires. I've always thought about that, like, but is anybody truly impartial? I don't know. Like you would hope, since we're all friends and everything too. But is that another thing that a lot of front office guys would have to take on, is my fear also. Do you have, so I don't mind doing challenges if that's a possibility. But we would have to shore up like our video, right? Like you would maybe have to have it's not even a video that we put out to the public. It's like, here's a video that's on the first base, facing first base and the pitcher the entire time. Mm-hmm. Or, like, I feel like there would have to be like a separate camera that we could just go to. And then like after the game's over, if there's a controversy, delete it. But the one thing that I love about our league is, at the end of the day, like, yes, there are close calls and there are controversies and people get competitive, but we're all there for each other. And, it kind of just blows by and everything's all fine and hunky-dory off afterwards. So,
yeah. All right. And the final question.
Okay.
So, how do I say this? If you were to institute some sort of, let's call it like a salary cap, right? Like the NFL has a salary cap to try to even the playing field from the players, the opportunity for players. So if you were to create some sort of, or institute some sort of salary cap to create even more parity in the league, how would you structure that?
That has actually like been more of a topic of conversation than I think people realize. It's been like, when it comes down to it, I don't think we will ever do it, because once again, this league is about more than the wiffle ball, and it's about the camaraderie. Like, think about the Expos. Like, yeah, they won a championship a couple years ago when they had Brett, and Brett was one of their close friends, but like, they're 1-9 this year and they still had a great time. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's about whoever you want to play with them. Like, have fun, play with your friends, have more of your friends join your teams, come together. There's people that I never would have met, if Steve Hayes didn't bring over Mike Carl, didn't bring into the fold, or like the Polies didn't bring into the fold Keaton Adams, like we never would have met these great people if it wouldn't have been like, people play with who you want. But with that being said, many leagues do have a salary cap, and they structure it in really interesting ways, to have a redraft every year. Excuse me, and do like a keeper system. And you keep a certain amount of people, and then everybody gets ranked from their previous like 3 seasons, weighted towards the most recent season. And you get a dollar amount put on you, right? Or another way to do it is you could do an auction, and everybody obviously a system that values each player based on their stats from the past couple of years, whatever. And if I keep, if I was on, say, Gus's team, I could keep him. He's the best player in the past couple of years, and obviously weighted towards the most current best player. And if I had him on my team, he's going to be an expensive keeper. And the rest of my guys that I can draft or auction the rest of my money off of, you can just see who's left for it. Just like running it like a fantasy football or fantasy baseball auction draft. And whatever money you have left over as $1 players, you might have to wait till the bottom if you spend all your money on an incredible player with high value. It's how does each captain value their players, right? How do you value? I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would think a redraft for SWBL would be a lot of fun. And it'll be interesting to see, like, later on down the line, if our kids start taking over, how do they structure their teams? Do we just do it like we did the Marlins? Another friend group joins the fold. When Jack Light's friends are old enough, is that just they get a team, or do we structure it a little differently? So we'll see what happens. But I think there's definitely some cool ways that leagues do it for sure.
Cool. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this podcast of Ask the Commish. I hope you had as much fun as we did recording it.
Sorry about the difficulties, everyone. My Wi-Fi kept going.
It's all good. We'll get it all straightened out. So, Sam, thanks for taking the time. Obviously, I know you're busy with kids and school and getting a league going again for the next year and everything like that. So just wanted to say thanks. Real quick, guys, we are looking for sponsors again next year. A lot of our sponsors tend to return because of that family feel, and they become a part of that family as well. So I'm sure we'll have some returning sponsors, but if you are interested in being a sponsor for the SWBL, you can email us at skibbewiffleball@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out to us in the front office there to express your interest on that. And then we're going to start cranking some more podcasts out more regularly. Again, that's on me. I should have done a few more in the off season, but we're also going to start looking into the free agency, and kind of we'll recap whatever's happened at that point, and then also talk about some of the free agents that are still available, as well as we'll have another origin story coming up. If you remember at the beginning of last year, we did one where Gus and Scott, and talking about them kind of getting into wiffle ball in the first year that they played together. And it's great that it all ended up coming together and they won a championship again in the same year. But we'll have another origin story. So that'll be to be announced soon. And then we'll start getting into all the stuff you're used to, the draft, the schedule will come out. We'll do one then. We'll do a bunch
of division draws,
the draft, all of those things, power rankings. So we'll start hitting these up, and they'll be coming out more regularly. So stay tuned, and we appreciate all of you out there. If you like this podcast, give it a like and subscribe and tell your friends about it. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thanks, Brian.
See ya.